The attendance is on, by the way. Was there a class before this one? Or okay, so guys, I have to take one of my family member for vaccination tomorrow. While that slot is 10 to 11, so most probably I should be back by 11. But there is a chance that if things are slightly delayed, I may have to reschedule the class. So, what could be a possible time for you guys? I have not seen your timetable. So, but do you have a slot tomorrow where I can fill in? I'll try my best to be back, but you know what is happening at vaccination centers these days, right? Uh, so in case I get delayed, um, can you tell me if you have a free slot tomorrow? I'm ready to take it at any point of time during the day. I can actually take it at 9 if you are free. 9 to 10 will be will be fine. Or sometime in the afternoon or evening. I'm just planning for a backup in case I do not reach back by 11. So 2 to 4 there is no class. So can we have it 3 at 3 p.m. 3 to 4? Will that be
Sir, Niharika ma'am is also getting vaccinated, so she'll be taking an extra class
Acha.
tomorrow. So we
Okay.
don't know at what time she'll take it. So she'll
Okay.
probably take it in the afternoon. So
Okay.
morning will be better.
So in the evening, what time you guys will be free? I have no issues up to 8 p.m. or anything like that.
So 9 to 10 will be okay. Like it's okay to you also, and 9 to 10 is free for us too. So
Okay.
9 to 10 will be okay.
Okay. So any issues with 9 to 10? Uh,
No, sir.
okay, guys. So then let us for uh actually 10 to 11 is the is 10 to 11 free?
DD's class, I guess, 10 to 11.
Because see, I think there won't be a problem if we go by 11. Because for for senior citizens, I think they actually allow people to walk in and get vaccinated. So since I'm taking my mother, even if we reach at 11:15, I guess we'll be able to do. So is 10 to 11 fine with you guys? I have no issues. Tia, please, Tia and Yashwardhan, please float a sheet, 9 to 10 or 10 to 11, whichever is fine. Okay, just tell me. I am fine with both. Okay, 9 to 10 or 10 to 11. Just tell me which of the two options would you guys want. Okay, and I'll take the lecture at that point. Okay. Just that 11 to 12 is it's kind of in midway thing, right? I mean, the vaccination starts at 10, so that is the first slot that I have taken. But the from so I'm not sure whether I'll be back by 11 or not. That is the issue. So it's fine if you guys would like it at 10 to 11, or I can take it from 9 to 10 and then go. So please, Tia or Yashvardhan, whomsoever is taking the responsibility, please float a sheet and tell me by night that which of the two option is better.
I guess Prasad will ask Niharika ma'am at and what time she'll not take
Y-
class. Like
yeah. I mean, just if by tonight, tonight, just tell me some time slot. I have no issues with any other time slots, right? Just I want to be free. Let us say something from 11 to 12. If I am free, I am fine. Okay. Prior to that and after that, I have no issues. Just figure out some slot and we'll have the lecture. Okay. So this was enough chit chat. Let's start then. Okay, I'll have to open the other. See, this is the problem. You guys fall one day behind from your peers. So I was actually going to teach the other lecture for you. Uh, uh, 6.2, right? We haven't even covered 6.2 now. Okay. But I think it is better for you because whatever learnings I get from the CSAI batch, because when I teach it online for the first time, there are certainly certain cases where I goof up, right? So there might be some problems in the slide, there might be some problems with the code. So when I teach them first, by the time I teach you, those things have been polished. So I think it's like it has uh, both advantages as well as disadvantages. Anyhow, so okay, so Yash has put some uh, put some poll, guys. So please have a look at it. I'll start with the lecture. We'll come back to this towards the end. By the way, um, my broadband is being a bit intermittent today. Actually it has become better in the past 1 hour, so magically, but before that it was disconnecting after every 5 minutes. So if there is a similar issue right now, I'll switch over to my mobile phone. So but please do inform. Okay, but how will you inform? Some of you may have my number, right? So anyone can just ping me on my number, that you've got disconnected. I will keep checking my internet connection. I have a ping opened up, but in case I goof up, try to reach me. Okay, but it has been better since the past 1 hour or so. So I hope it should work for another hour. Anyhow, so let's start then. Mm, hmm. So this input output thing, actually, I was, in the beginning, I had no idea of, I had no reason for teaching this. But when I was creating the syllabus, I realized that uh, by this point of time, you'll be designing your projects, right? So I thought maybe one good example for you guys to see is how the C++ IO API, the C++ IO classes have been created, right? The design hierarchy of the C++ IO. By the way, you can see my screen, right? I mean, because I have put a different terminal window on top of my screen, which is essentially showing me the ping ping to check that my internet connection is working. So yeah, I hope that that window is not shown to you. This is only seen by me. Anyhow, so yeah, so the idea is that the C and C++ IO is pretty much the same. There are very little changes. I'll tell you the major changes. But what I want you guys to understand here is the importance of inheritance. Okay, so this is a classic example of how inheritance works. And since I wanted to discuss this example, I thought I'll also give you a brief overview of C++ IO. But most of it you might already know. I'll just want to show you how it works. So anyhow, let's have a look. So during our ITP, we discussed file handling in rather more detail. And if you have forgotten all those aspects, I suggest that you go back and have a look at it. I mean, most of it is very simple and straightforward, but still, these are important concepts. So it would be better if you have an idea of this. So these are some of the things I'm just going to remind you at lightning speed. So basically, we started studying file handling by discussing the differences between textual data and binary data. And what exactly was the major difference? The major difference was how you interpreted a set of bytes in a file, right? Um, at the file level, they were just bytes. But if you were treating it as a character data, it was possible that one or more bytes belong basically constituted a single character. So this is where you discuss things like ASCII. So ASCII means that one character is being represented by just one byte, and there are other character encodings, for example related to Unicode, where one character might be occupying more than one byte, right? So this was the idea, that if you are treating data at the binary level, you are basically interpreting each byte individually, and if you are treating data at the character level, you are basically treating data character by character. So this was one difference that was there. Then the other thing that we talked about was the idea of opening and closing a file. So again, the file is just a collection of byte, right? So there is nothing really like a text file and a binary file. It's about the interpretation, right? I mean, if you've written a file using a text, using some text file writing mechanism, the the things that will be written in the file, these bytes, will be basically characters. Okay, they could be single byte characters or multiple byte characters, but they are characters, and you can always treat them as just a flow of bytes. That's it. um, then we also knew something like modes of opening a file. So if you remember, we used to write R or W or RW in the fopen calls, right? And this basically said that it informed the underlying implementation that the only thing we want to do this with this file is read, or the only thing that we want to do with this file is write, or we want to do both write as well as read. There were other things like append, right? So there were so many different types of file modes in which a file was opened. So all these things are again applicable to C++ as well. So there are different ways, there are different modes in which you can open a file. We saw the, typically you might access the file either sequentially, so you keep on reading the data one by one. In many use cases, it is fairly common to simply read the file from the beginning to the end, or you can jump from one position to another position within the file. There were two functions, ftell and fseek. Ftell will just tell you the position, and fseek will also take you to that position. Similarly, we saw that this fprintf was very similar to printf. The only thing that was different was this file pointer that you were creating. Similarly, fscanf was very similar to scanf with the file pointer. For writing or reading data in a binary setting, we used fread and fwrite. And if you remember, the fread and fwrite were able to read or write full structure variables in one go, right? If you remember. And the same aspect is here as well. Whenever we'll read or write, it is possible to read or write a complete object, for example. So please revise these topics in case you have forgotten them. These topics are of anyhow importance. Irrespective of what you are doing, these are some of the things that you should know. So now if we come back to C++, so the only things we are going to discuss are basically the differences. We are not going to study C++ IO at a great depth. Um, I just spend some time at the IO hierarchy, but just to give you a brief, any C++ compiler that you'll use will also will also give you access to the whole C input output as well. So in within your .cpp files, it's perfectly fine to include stdio.h and then create a file asterisk ptr and then use fopen. So whatever is there in the C part of IO handling, that can still be used in C++. However, C++ also has its own IO philosophy. So the major difference between the C based IO access and the C++ based IO access is that in C, where you basically use this file ptr, right? File pointer everywhere in all the methods related to file handling, right? Fprintf, fscanf, fread, fwrite, fclose. Everywhere the argument in the arguments, one of the arguments used to be this pointer, right? Why? Because first of all, C is not really object oriented. So the only thing that you did was created functions and then passed arguments to it. But with C++ coming into picture, now you have this idea of a member function. Okay, and how do you access a member function? You put the object, then the dot, and then the member function, right? You don't really have to pass the object to this function. It's implicit, right? I mean, the member function usually have access to all the it does have access to all the properties of the calling object. So now one difference that you will see here is, instead of passing these pointers, you see that the functions will come in the form of x dot y, where y is a member function and x is an object. And what exactly are these objects? These objects are called streams. Okay, so now instead of creating a file pointer, what you'll create are streams. So streams are very similar to what you guys have already done. Basically, with the help of file pointer, you used to create buffers where data will be put and then data can be read. Now streams, the overall concept is the same. In fact, maybe at the implementation level it is exactly the same, I don't know. But now the idea is that you assume, you imagine streams like some kind of pipe. Okay, with the help of this pipe, what flows through this pipe is essentially data. Okay, instead of water or some other liquid, what is flowing through these pipes are data. And these pipes can either be unidirectional or they can be bidirectional. So it means that when I say unidirectional, it means that maybe the data only flows from the file to your program, or from your program to the file, or it could be bidirectional, right? So you, the program can send data to the file, as well as data can be fetched from the file. So this is the example of a bidirectional stream. Okay, so this is the first difference, that instead of creating a file pointer, you create stream objects of different types. The second difference, and this is why I chose to include this as a lecture, is the use of inheritance, the elegant use of inheritance to achieve this IO in the C++ part, right? So in C, everything was implemented as a function. Now with C++, you have classes, and with classes, you also have the option of inheritance. So this is where C++ IO is really of interest to us, right? So this is what happens. There is a base class called iOS. Okay, and from these two, this base class you can consider to be the class that is at the absolute low level. Okay, this is the class that deals with so many things associated with opening, closing the file, and so on and so forth, and managing the states of the file. These are low level details that you probably never really intend to know. Then from this class, there are two classes which are deriving. One is called I stream, the other one is called O stream. And I stands for input, O stands for output. So there are two classes here which are both deriving from here. And then these two classes are adding stuff that is specific for input and specific for output. So this part is just about, typical file related stuff, typical metadata and everything that is required to open or communicate with the file. And in these two classes, you add methods and properties and operators, with the help of which you can now perform input or output with respect to a file. So these two stream classes, they are the basic stream classes for taking input or providing output to a file. There is also a class called IOStream. This IOStream class is again similar to RW and RW, right? So you can open a file in the bidirectional mode as well. So in that case, it is this class. This is useful. Why? Because this class is now inheriting from both iStream as well as OStream. So this class has features of both input as well as output, right? So, and this IFstream and OFstream are basically extensions of iStream and OStream, but specific to to a file. This here, I mean, by the way, everything in the Unix world is a file. Even memory locations and everything, basically everything in Unix world is a file. So this, this here, it actually treats everything as a file, whether it is your console or whether it is an actual file. But this one, the if stream and OF stream are for actual files, the files that we people understand, the ones which have .txt or .bin extensions, right? But even here also, because in the Unix world everything is a file, you can say that um, this is a generic part. This part is also applicable to standard input output. Why? Because standard input output that you take from console, that is also treated like a file only. Okay, but these classes, these if stream and of stream, they are specific for actually handling the files, the files that we all know about. And this f stream class similarly, so if stream is for taking inputs from a file, of stream is to put output inside to a file, and f stream is for both input output. So what exactly is so good about this hierarchy? The best part about this hierarchy is, if you understand the different types of streams that are here, if you wanted to create them without using any inheritance, there would have been so much duplication, right? I mean, uh, some of the features would have been duplicated at multiple places. But with the help of this simple but elegant hierarchy, they are able to only add features or behavior at one point and then inherit it conveniently, right? And because C++ even allows for multiple inheritance, you are able to do something like this as well. So you basically have an input branch in the tree, you have an output branch in the tree, and then you merge them together into one class to make an input output branch as well. So by the way, there are other classes also in this hierarchy which I have not shown here, but this is the bare minimum that you should see and appreciate. Any questions on this? Why? I mean, do you understand why the hierarchy was created this way, and what is the advantage of creating classes in such fashion? Any queries? So again, the basic idea is you want to keep the duplication part to a bare minimum. That is the idea, and this is much more efficient also, right? And uh, okay, so this part, if everything is clear, we can now move on to the next part where you understand how to use these streams. So the first thing you should know is that this C out and C in that you use, they are types of O stream and I stream respectively, right? So if you go back to this hierarchy, they are here, okay? And whenever this, and because this I stream and O stream are being extended by IF stream and OF stream. What is the advantage that you're going to get? I'll tell you why. But basically the idea is whatever you can do with the C out and C in kind of in a C out or C in kind of a scenario, you can also do it with these so-called file related streams. So we'll just get to it when I show you some code. But if you want to perform IO over files, and here I'm talking about files as in text files, binary files, and so on and so forth, not some other kind of file that I was talking about. As I said, in Unix everything is a file, even the devices that are attached to your machine, they are also represented as files. This is so you have a file associated with your mouse, a file associated with your keyboard, so on and so forth. So all the devices have files. But by the way, if we talk about files in the more in the more conventional sense, so this is how it is done in C++. You have these three streams: if stream, off stream, whatever you call it, OF stream, and F stream. This is used if you just want to take inputs from the files. This is used if you just want to output something to the file, and this is used for the read write case, right, where you want to do both. So this last one is the bidirectional stream, and these two are basically unidirectional stream. To open a particular stream to a particular file, you simply pass the name of the file as an argument to the constructor of this class. So this if stream class has this constructor where you pass on the name of the file, and now what happens is this there is a stream called in that gets created, and now it is attached to this file, right? So now with the help of this stream, you can read data from file.txt. Another way to open the stream to a particular class without using the constructor is something like this. You just use the default constructor and then you call the open method. So here this open method is basically similar to the f open method in the C domain, right? You provide it provided the name of the file. With fopen you also provided uh, the the file modes in which it is supposed to be open. You can provide the modes as well, by the way, something like this. Okay, so instead of modes you have some constants defined in the iOS class, and these constants can be uh, bitwise or. This is bitwise or, by the way, this is not the logical or. Okay, this is the bitwise or. So whatever preferences, whatever things you want to know, or whatever things you want to tell about this particular stream, there are some number of flags. I'm not going to discuss it in the class, but if you want to to provide more than one flags associated with a particular stream, this is the way to do that. You can either pass it to the constructor or to the open method. This is possible. And then as you guys already know, there are three different ways in which we usually open up files: read, write, and append. Append basically means that you are not going to, because write is an operation which will by default um, truncate the contents of the file if it already exists. So if you don't want the content uh, to be removed, you usually use the append formats. Okay, and the additional reading section in the lecture has some reference. I would like you guys to read about it. There is another book that I suggested to the other batch. uh, Let me see if I can but anyhow, let me come to that. So after after you are done with whatever work you were doing, whatever read write you were doing, you can call the close method on the stream. So something like in dot close, right? So now how do you do the read write part, the actual reading and writing? So it's very similar to how it was there in C. In C there were two sets of methods. This fprintf, fscanf kind of methods were the ones where you treated the data as character data. So to do that, now what you can do is, whatever stream you are going to create, okay, let us say I created a stream called out to the file out.txt. Now they can be used in a fashion, in a very similar fashion as to cout. Okay, this is how you put output in C++. You simply do cout and then something here. The same thing can be done with out. Why? Because ostream is the base class of this has to be of stream, by the way. See, I forgot to make this change. So this has to be of stream. And when you create an instance of of stream, you can always use the insertion operator, because the overloading of this operator is being done in the o stream class. So this is a perfectly valid statement, right? Again, if you make analogy, if you make comparisons with C, this is exactly what happened, right? The way you used printf and the way you used fprintf was very similar. So similarly, the way you use an output file stream and the way you use cout is pretty much the same way, unless you have to do binary input output. So for doing binary input output in C, we had fread and fwrite. And what is it that we provided? We provided the data, the size to read or write. The same thing is here in C++. You have two methods called read and write. You give it the data to read or write, right? Data as in, if you are reading, you need to give it a buffer where the data will be read into, or if you're writing the data, you have to tell this is the data I want to write. And then the size, so you often use the size of operator. So if you are writing an integer, you do something like ampersand I, where I is the integer that is supposed to be written, and then you do size of int, and that is fine. So the same thing is there here. You have the read and write method, which are equivalent to fread and fwrite. For this random access, you used to have this ftell and fseek in C. Here you have two methods, seek underscore p and seek underscore g. And these two methods are different. One is for seek underscore put and one is seek underscore get. Okay, so you have two different seek methods here, one for write and one for read. And similarly, the equivalent of ftell are tell underscore p and tell underscore g. So this is this is just the introduction to C++ IO at a lightning speed. um, the major concept you have to understand is that in C++ you are going to use streams instead of file pointers, And the second thing is you should be aware of that hierarchy. Okay, I have only showed you a subset of that hierarchy. I have not shown you the complete hierarchy. So you should be aware of how that hierarchy looks. As long as you are aware of that hierarchy, you will be able to do whatever file handling stuff that you want. Okay, because in most cases, if you are if you you know uh, this operator, this should be enough for you, especially if you are just doing character based input output. You can treat your output file and input your output stream and input streams exactly like cout and cin, right? So it's pretty convenient as well. Any questions, or shall we go and have a look at some code? If you have any conceptual questions, we can first talk about them. Okay, so then I guess we should move on to some code. Let us see some code. Let me stop this. Sorry, I have to keep my phone with me today because I don't know at what time uh, my broadband will go away, so I have to keep it ready. Anyhow, I hope you guys can see my virtual machine. Let me just okay. So let's see. In that same toy world that we've been living till now, let us say now we have the requirement of generating a pamphlet for, let us say, a toy store. The idea is I'll supply this. I'll supply a set of a list of toys, and I need a pamphlet to be generated for it, right? So this is a simple example. Where exactly is the txt file? Is it not there? Just a minute. Less file is LTR. Ah, this is the one. So I'm talking about something like this, that basically you put the name of the toys and then just the MRP. And you can see this is having some weird thing. Why is it having this weird thing? I'll tell you. But this is the idea, that you want to prepare this pamphlet for the toys. So I have created a class here, toy pamphlet dot h. So what does this class have? So the first thing is there is a double pointer, okay, toy to asterisk asterisk list of toys. So now I don't know how comfortable are you guys with pointers. Um, I did tell you guys that in the C++ world, pointers are kind of omnipresent. They'll be there everywhere, and so you can see that they are here. Okay, so now you have a list of I call it list of toys, and it's a two-dimensional toy pointer. Why two-dimensional? If it was just a single toy, it would have been just a toy two asterisk, but because it is a list of toy, it is toy two asterisk asterisk. So then what exactly are we going to do? We have some methods here. Add toy to pamphlet. So the store is supposed to add a toy to this pamphlet. I can then um, store this. I can then create a text file out of whatever toys are there added to this pamphlet. Two, and this string is basically the name of a file. So you give me the name of a file, and I will print whatever toys are there in this pamphlet to this particular file. And then there are some methods for generating these pamphlets. This particular method is for generating it directly into a file. That is the idea. And by the way, yeah, by the way, this print stored pamphlet, I think is the other way around. I'll just see. I think it is to read a pamphlet from a text file. Yeah, that is, I got confused. So let me show you some code. .cpp. So let us see. So the constructor is something like this. You just give me the maximum number of toys it can have, so that I can use. And by the way, I'm going to use the new operator here. the new and delete operator. The new and delete operators are similar to malloc and free in the C world. I did not explicitly cover them because I didn't feel it was really that important. But the new and delete operators are similar to the malloc and free functions in C. So here I'm creating, with the help of this, what I'm doing is I'm basically creating an array of toy2 pointers. This is what it is. Okay, it is an array of toy2 pointers, and each pointer can then point to an individual toy. Okay, so this is the idea. This is why I have it. I'm doing it like this. You can also create a single toy as well. That is also possible. But here I'm just creating a pointer. I'm creating an array of pointers like this. Okay. So then what is the next step? The next step is that when I want to add a toy to this pamphlet, I simply pass it to this method, and what I do is I simply store the address of this toy. I'm not creating a new toy. I'm just storing its address in this array that I have created. I'll come to this print sorted pamphlet later. Let me just go to this method first. It's called generate pamphlet. What exactly is this doing? It is doing some certain things related to um, IO. These are IO details in C++. So if you remember, in C, when we used to, I think in the first or second lab, there was a case where you had to perform formatted input output, right? Not only were you supposed to print a floating type variable, you were supposed to print it only up to, let us say, 3 decimal places or 4 decimal places, right? I mean, there was something like this. So at that point of time, you realize that there is something like not just %d or %f. You can write %6.2f, if you remember those things, right? So this piece of code here is in some ways the same thing. So there is something known as a manipulator. Whenever you are using streams in C++, if you want the stream to just temporarily behave in a different fashion, it is known as, you can use one of the many manipulators that are provided along with the standard library. So just to give you an idea, the endl thing that you use, right? This endl, this is actually a manipulator. Okay, so what does it do? It manipulates the way this particular stream actually works. So if you do not do endl, what will happen? It will keep on putting the output in the same line. The moment you put endl, it will simply change the line. Okay, so this is how I am modifying the behavior of out of this particular stream. But keep it in mind that manipulators only work temporarily. They are only applicable to this particular statement only. So for instance, this endl will just end everything that has been printed till here. If you put another out statement here, this endl is gone. It has no meaning, not beyond this particular position, right? If you want certain things to be applied across stream, whenever you are using that stream, you can use some member functions of that stream, right? There are functions like precision, width, fill. There are some functions that are available, and by the way, there are equivalent manipulators also for most of these functions. Okay, so what is the difference? So for example, here I'm using this manipulator called setW, which is basically saying please make the width of the output as 50. So now whatever is outputted after this setW thing, it will be put into a field of 50 characters. So let us say my toy has a name which is, let us say, 15 or 20 characters. The rest of the space will be filled up by some filler. Okay, what will be the filler? The default filler is space. Okay, so my toy's name will be filled, I'll only put 15 characters of the toy, and the rest 35 characters will be filled up with space. I can also choose the fill character. I can say, instead of filling space, use this star here, right? Similarly, temporarily I can also change the alignment instead of right alignment, I can, the default is right alignment. So my toy's name will appear on the right and spaces will be filled on the left. Instead of doing that, I'm saying assign the text to the left, align the text to the left, and whatever padding you are supposed to do, put it on the right. Okay, so these are all manipulators. This set iOS flags, set W, these are all manipulators, and these are member functions. So whatever you do with the member functions over a stream, these things persist. These things persist until they are changed. But with a manipulator, it happens only for one particular statement. Okay, so this is another feature of the C++ IO, that it provides you these methods, these functions, as well as manipulators. With the help of manipulators, you make a temporary change, and with the help of these functions, you make permanent changes. Don't worry, you don't have to remember these functions as well as these manipulators. Usually nobody does. Okay, there are references for this, so you should have some reference text where all the manipulators and all the functions are provided. Whenever you need to do some kind of formatted input output, you can simply go and read, okay, what manipulators are of importance to you. There is just a header file that you will have to include called iomanip. Okay, if you include iomanip, you will be able to access all these manipulators. Okay, so then what exactly are we doing here? We are just uh, printing it in a pretty fashion. And similarly, this precision thing here, okay, it tells me the number of decimal places to which I want my floating point numbers to be printed. Now here actually the prices are in integer, so I'm just making I'm forcing them to be treated as float, so that I can show you that that decimal point thing, right? And this fixed here means that it should not be in the scientific notation. By default, your output will come out in scientific notation, as I just showed you, right? Because I wanted to show how will it come up. But if you do not want the scientific notation to come up, you want the decimal point to come up and then the zeros to come up, you should use the manipulator called fixed. Now let me just show you the example first. And by the way, this is where the example is coming from. So I'm just adding some toys here to this pamphlet here, pamphlet.add toy. Then I do pamphlet.generate pamphlet in a file. So I'm saying please generate the pamphlet and put it in pamphlet.txt. And then I'm basically saying print the pamphlet stored in the file pamphlet.txt. This is the idea. So when I do toy pamphlet generator, so it says that this is the pamphlet that has been that it says pamphlet generated and stored in pamphlet.txt, and then it reads this pamphlet back from that particular file. And you can now see that this is showing 399.00. Earlier I think it was showing you like this. Why? Because I had removed fixed from the fixed manipulator. I had removed it. After putting the fixed manipulator, it is now showing it like this. Okay, and then this is the file that has been created. Okay, and you can see how that width thing worked. Okay, so this is 50 characters. Okay, whatever is rest, it is being filled up by the fill character called asterisk. Okay, any questions now from this? We are done. No questions? Okay, so there is of course I have put some references in the slides, so you can go and read that. By the way, I wanted to suggest a book. Any questions, or shall I stop the sharing? Okay, so I'm just stopping the sharing. I wanted to suggest a book to you guys. I had suggested it uh, to the other batch as well. This is the book. Let me just share the screen. It's a costly book, so I don't think everyone will be able to buy it. but if you can buy it, it's a good book to have. uh, this is the book. Okay, it's called the C plus the complete reference, C plus plus the complete reference. This is not a good book to learn C plus plus, but it is a good book to have in your shelf if you want to be a regular C plus plus coder. Okay, so most of the stuff that I have put in here, it has been taken up from this particular book. So this is a book, if you guys can I mean, it's up to you. I know it's very costly, so I don't want you guys to put in money if it is hard for you. But if you can somehow buy it from somewhere, just keep it and put it in your bookshelf. It's always going to be a good book. Okay. Okay, guys. Any queries? Shall we? Shall we? Otherwise, we'll break. And what is the result of the poll? Let me check. Also, results are here, right? It's even. Okay. So what should we do? Do you want more time to decide? So Tia and Yashvardhan, please. Uh, uh, so please decide. You can also talk to Niharika ma'am if required, and please tell me the slot by tonight. Okay, I'm giving this responsibility to Tia and Yashvardhan. Please. Uh, please talk to her and tell me a time. Okay, just finalize a time, either 9 to 10, 10 to 11. I'm also fine with any time in the evening as well. So if you would like to have a lecture in the evening, I have no issues with that as well. So 9 to 10, 10 to 11, or sometime in evening, whichever is convenient to most people. Please tell me, inform me, and we'll have the lecture at that point of time. uh, Detail. Okay, actually there are many books on C++. I'm not sure. Uh, uh, there's like a plethora of books. Uh, See, one thing you have to understand. This book is not really to. Um, yeah. Sorry, Ayush. I will do it today. I completely forgot. I had one more person from the family being vaccinated this week. I will get vaccinated on Saturday. I got a slot on Saturday. So yeah, vaccinations are going on in my family. So things have fallen behind. But yeah, today I'll put all the slides online. Um, yeah. By the way, let me tell you this very frankly. This book is not a good book to learn C++. Okay, so it is a good book to have as a reference. Okay, so basically you've read certain topics already from different locations. You've heard lectures, you've seen tutorials, and then just you just want to have a complete overview of that particular topic. In that case, this book is brilliant. Okay, I think uh, Herb Shield also have other books which are meant to teach you C++. This is a reference book. Okay, this is a book that you should keep. I have the third edition of this book, and still pretty much everything I taught you in the previous two lectures have come from that book. Okay, this is just to give you an idea. Some of it has actually become obsolete now. I realized that the lecture that I gave today to the other batch, there used to be a feature in C++ which has now been made obsolete because my book is 1998 version. There are new versions of this book as well. So anyhow, please, this is not a necessity, but at least if some of you could buy this book, it will be nice. Okay, you can have it in your shelf. It is not a book really to read; it is a book to refer to. So that is why it might be too costly to buy it just for reference. I buy books for reference, so I thought I'll tell you. Anyhow, any more questions or shall we break? I'll put the slides today. Okay, thank you guys. Bye. And please tell me the slot for tomorrow by tonight. Okay, thank you. Bye.